what's up guys, Benny here and welcome to the best settings for Call of Duty Warzone in Season 2. One of the things that I get asked all the time are things like what sensitivity should I be using, what audio settings should I have, and things like that. So in this video, I'm going to answer all of those questions to help you out, to make sure that you're best suited to do the best that you can in Warzone. And if you've got any questions, make sure to let me know down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, as 70% of you watching are not subscribed to the channel, and I promise you'll get better at Warzone. But first of all, let's start off with the controller settings, because I think that's one of the things that most people want to know and it will help you out. The first thing I do is my BR button layout. I use tactical because I want to be able to drop shot, slide as easily as possible. So I want to be able to do that with by pressing my right thumbstick. And really, if you think about it, in Warzone, you don't melee that often unless it's at the start of a match and you're trying to box someone to death before they kill you with a pistol. So tactical is the best button layout to use. Now, something you can do depending on the controller that you use. If you're using an Xbox controller, I recommend to keep your triggers normal, where it's like right, left trigger to shoot, aim down sight, and right bumper and left bumper to use your lethal and tactical. If you're using a PlayStation controller, press X and flip those. So your R1 and L1 are your aim down sight and shoot. And then your L2 and R2 are your tactical and lethal. It will help you out in the long run massively. Now, the next important setting is your dead zone. This effectively means how reactive your thumbstick is. So when you make your movement with your thumbstick, how much movement does there need to be to see the action? Now, you want that to be as reactive as possible, ideally. Older controllers tend to have a bit of stick drift, so you might have to up this dead zone. But brand new controllers, and like personally, I think a 0.1 dead zone is best. Now, horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity, I personally use a 5. I think this is a great medium for sensitivity for Warzone, because you're going to be in you're going to have multiple short range, close, like mid-range fights and long range. So a low sensitivity by standard will give you better control at medium to long range, so you can land your shots more accurately. A higher sensitivity allows you to be more reactive. So a 5 is a great median. And then what you want to do is go for a 0.85 low zoom sensitivity. That kind of means that when you're aiming down sight, your sensitivity is more like a 4. And you can make those micro adjustments that you need to, especially with an assault rifle, to kind of flick up towards the head to get faster time to kills and win those gunfights. Really important thing. Don't just go for a super high sensitivity. I know a lot of people will be like, well, I play on a 20, and like there are some incredible players that play on very high sensitivities, but a rule of thumb, most pros play on like 5 or 6 sensitivity, and that's what I found like throughout my entire career playing Call of Duty. So try this out, and like if you're trying to get used to it, start lower, work your way up. So maybe do 4.4, then 5.5, 6.6, and so on. The high zoom, I just leave it as it is. Then the aim response curve type you want is dynamic, right? Which just means that you're going to have you're going to have a reverse S-curve mapping for fine aim rate control. It's just going to allow you to have better overall control, and your movements that you make on thumbstick are going to happen as they happen. Controller vibration, just have them disabled. Aim assist should be standard, and you want to make sure that you scale your aim assist with field of view if you're playing on PC. It just means that your aim assist is just going to be in the same region as your field of view gets pulled out. Very, very important. Weapon mount activation is just, I have all of these as kind of default personally. The next thing that I change with my settings is the use/reload behavior. Everyone should do this. If you don't have contextual tap set on these settings, you are crazy. Like, honestly, let me know down in the comments if you don't use contextual tap, because that is the first thing that you should be changing. Then armor plate behavior, I just have as apply 1, and then I hold Y to put them all on. Really useful thing. Slide behavior definitely should be changed to tap as well. This allows you to slide cancel. It's one of the things that if you ever watch a top player competing in or going for high kill games, they'll just slide cancel everywhere. There's a few reasons for this. First of all, your mobility is higher, but you're also a much harder target to hit, because when people are looking at you, your profile is constantly changing from being low to high, and you can just kind of dip behind cover. So definitely get into the hang and like habit of slide canceling. Auto move forward, I don't have on. Automatic sprint. Now this is something that is a big conversation point. Now I'm also thinking about trying it, but having automatic tactical sprint allows you to be able to move around the map at the maximum possible speed, because when you can do your tactical sprint, you will do it. and that's great going into a slide cancel instead of having to like constantly mash your left thumbstick, which is something I do all the time. It's probably why my left thumb starting to hurt. But like top players like Aiden and Jukies, they tend to have auto attack sprint on, so they can just constantly slide cancel. However, the habit you then need to build is when you're trying to move through a building slowly, you'll need to aim down sights because you'll obviously make a lot of noise if someone's listening through their headphones. If you don't do that. Vehicle camera recenter is disabled, and then parachute auto deploy is also disabled. You should be always pulling your parachute manually so you can get as close to the ground as possible so you can start grabbing loot. You don't want to just be hovering in the air and be an easy target for someone to shoot. But those are all my controller settings. Let me know down in the comments if you need any extra help with that. But the next important thing is audio. First of all, you need to be making sure that you've got a headset on. I personally use Turtle Beach headphones. I've used them for years. There is a link down in the description if you want to check those out. But headphones, very, very important for hearing directional sounds such as footsteps, gunfire, all that. Will help you win a game of Warzone. But my audio mix, I personally use Boost High, is what works best for me and allows me to distinctly pull out footsteps. Master volume is 100. Music volume, I just have it off. Music does not help you in Warzone. It makes the game feel epic and awesome, but it's not going to help you win games. Dialogue volume, you can sometimes get useful callouts. However, you don't want it to overpower effects volume, which is the most important setting out of the audio because it's going to allow you to hear those footsteps and gunshots. So make sure that is maximum volume as well. Juggernaut disabled, and the hit marker sound effects, I personally just use the Modern Warfare ones because they sound pretty good. Voice chat is going to be whatever you want. Personally, I normally have voice chat off. I have my microphone off and just listen to everyone else talking, but always making sure that you ping in game if you have. But those are my audio settings there. Next, right, we've got my graphics settings. Now, these are also very, very important, especially if you're playing on PC. Now, I play on a 1440p monitor at 144 hertz. I don't play on a 1080p anymore because I personally find having the extra detail on 1440p allows me to see things that I might have otherwise missed. Just having that little bit of extra detail looks really cool. However, I can't get those extreme frame rates of like 240 hertz that you can on a 1080p screen. So make sure I've just got my screen set to 1440p and 144 hertz. Aspect ratio, automatic. VSync should always be off. You don't want that. Custom frame rate is also really helpful. I make sure I don't need to be having my GPU run more than it needs to, so I cap it at 140 hertz. Menu 60, out of focus, custom frame rate at 30, because you don't need the extra weight. And also, I have NVIDIA highlights switched on, which is how I get all my clips for my kills to showcase in my videos, if you're thinking about that. NVIDIA Reflex low latency is also incredibly helpful. It's just going to make sure that you're as reactive as possible and getting your first shots on your opponents. Really helpful piece of kit to have turned on. Then streaming quality I have as normal. Text resolution, I mainly play on normal, partially because you don't need all that extra detail. Having a really high detailed bush, and you guys can probably agree with me with this, a high detailed bush is actually harder to see someone crouching in it than someone that is not high detail, because the character models tend to load in at the same resolution. The foliage and terrain renders in at a lower resolution if you've got these set to normal, so it's easier to spot people. So if you're running on like high, people are going to be hiding in those bushes a lot easier. Particle quality low, bullet impacts and sprays enabled, tessellation all, on-demand texture streaming is disabled. This isn't really important. Shadow map resolutions I have as normal. Once again, shadows are so helpful. The amount of times that I beat people because I look for the shadows so I know where to pre-aim and shoot is so helpful. Like, take that into account when you're playing as well. Look at the shadows so you can help spot players, and also just use it to your advantage when playing Warzone. It'll get you a lot of kills, and you'll be surprised once you start thinking about it. It will really help you out. Cast spot shadows and cast sun shadows should always be on because you don't need to enable them. Sometimes, for some reason, it always turns off, so you just got to remind yourself to turn them on when you can. Particle lighting normal. DirectX ray tracing is disabled. Ambient occlusions both. Screen space reflection is normal. Then I have anti-aliasing as Filmic SMAA T2X. This just makes the game look really good. If you're trying to run at maximum performance, turn that off. Game's not going to look as good, but you're going to get the most frames into your game. But I personally just like it looking pretty cool, so I've got Filmic on there. Depth of field. Turn this off. Having any type of blur in Warzone is a disadvantage to you, and in Season 2, you should not be having that at all. Filmic strength is then 0. World motion blur and weapon motion blur, that is for everyone, PC and console, should be disabled. Then film grain is also at 0. Dynamic resolution is actually a new setting that they've added with Season 2, and will pretty much just render your resolution constantly to hit your targeted frame rate. Personally, I don't think it's a good thing. I prefer having a smooth, consistent performance. However, if you want to make sure that your like resolution is at the highest possible and hitting your target frame rate at all times, give this a go. It can be quite cool, especially if you're playing on like 4K resolution, but want to like see the game at the highest frame rate the most, but also want to make sure that you're getting a high frame rate all the time. Because if it's not going to be able to hit 120 FPS with this on at 4K resolution, it'll dip the resolution down to like 1440p, but it can be quite jarring. So personally, I'd rather have a fixed resolution at all times. So keep that off in my personal opinion, but we'll apply the changes that we made. Then we've got general. Now, this is probably one of the most discussed points within the Warzone community, field of view. I really, really wish that this was getting added to consoles soon. Hopefully it gets added for next gen, so PS5, Xbox Series X and S, because I think the hardware should be able to deal with it. But right now, this is only available on PC. Having a higher field of view, first of all, makes you look as if you're running faster. You don't run faster, it just gives you that kind of illusion. But the important thing is you can see what's happening around you. So you might see someone come out of a doorway that if you were on a console and had default field of view, you might not have seen. So you're able to snap on, pick up that kill. 110 works really well for me. I kind of can see everything going on around me. But one of the big things to remember is that targets further away are going to appear smaller, so you might not be able to make those micro adjustments that you need to land your shots. Something to be aware of, and then you want to make sure that your ADS field of view is independent. That means when you aim down sight, it's going to snap in and give you zoom in onto your target, so you can then make those micro adjustments to land those headshots, which is really, really useful. Brightness I have as 50. Sadly, rose skins still blend into the shadows. If you want to obliterate rose skins, whack that up so no one can hide in a dark corner, but the game doesn't look as good in my opinion. I have all these as kind of default. Colorblind type, I get asked this all the time, especially in my streams. What colorblind? Why is your screen orange? Why? It's because I'm colorblind, first of all. I use Protanopia, but I only put it onto my interface so I can see things like red dots on the minimap. Reason I do it on my interface is so the game doesn't look weird to people watching it. But it helps me because that's the key information that I need to see on my screen, on my minimap. Minimap right now, it should be square. If you're not using it square in Season 2, you're missing out. So go make sure you change that. I've got minimap rotation enabled. Compass cardinal direction text is useful. It's just on the top of your screen. Also, make sure you're using your compass when you're playing Warzone. You get a lot of very useful information on there that is going to help you win games. You don't always need to look at your minimap, especially if you look at your minimap and then you'll try and use your compass to line up your opponent on the top. You know exactly where they are, because sometimes you can misread something if you look at your minimap to where they actually are in the game. Then I have all these as default. Having your frames per second counter can sometimes be helpful. Just make sure that you know that you're running, your system is running how it should be. But those are all my settings for Call of Duty Warzone. I've also got crossplay enabled, of course. But those are all my settings for Call of Duty Warzone in Season 2. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I hope this helps you. I've got loads of content coming this week, streams. I've got more videos, so make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.